If you are looking to buy your first home, then this video is for you. Starting the process from deciding to buy your first home to pre-approval through to settlement requires a fair bit of effort. Luckily, if you choose to engage the services of a mortgage broker, such as myself, you will save yourself a fair bit of effort. So what can you as a first home buyer expect when utilizing me, or typically most brokers, when organizing your first home loan? Firstly, it usually starts with a phone call. This can take between 15 and 60 minutes, roughly, depending on the complexities of your situation. So what goes on during the initial discussion, you might ask? What's your income? What about your car loans, your HEX loans? How does that affect borrowing capacity? Should you shut down your credit cards? And of course, what deposit you've saved. Perhaps you're not going to use the first home guarantee. You might be utilizing a guarantor loan. We go through all of that. Once we've gone through these basic things, we'll discover your goals. I usually think it's a good idea to take advantage of the 5% deposit scheme at the moment, and any stamp duty exemptions that may be available to you as a first home buyer, which won't be available to you if you go with an investment loan first. But each person is on their own journey, and advice must be given according to your goals. So once I have all this information in my hot little hand, I end the call there and then. I will research your borrowing capacity and your lender options. I'll come back and I'll present these to you. I'll also tell you the list of documents I'll need to assess you properly and lodge an application if you're up to that level. So let's go through an example. Adam, he's married to Marnie. They live in Randwick at the moment, but they want to move out of their unit and they want to buy a home. They're looking in the 2210 postcode and they found one in Riverwood. Adam is on around 180K. He's on a touch more, but we're going to use 180K to be cautious. And Marnie is on 85K. She's in administration. So they've got no HEX debt anymore. They paid off their debt actually as they went. So they never accumulated a HEX debt, which is pretty cool. So they want to buy a property to live in, a house for 1.3 million. They're going to use the first home guarantee scheme. Why wouldn't you? So a 95% loan will be 1.235 million. You might notice here that I've got the LVR is 80%. That's to do with the interest rates over here. The reason we do that is because we're looking for all the lenders that will give a first home buyer under that scheme the 80% LVR rates. So all of these lenders here will give Adam the same rate as if you'd paid a 20% deposit. Some of the lenders on the scheme panel, they will charge you a 95% rate. So you're looking at early sixes, late fives, but these ones are really lenient towards first home buyers, and that's why we utilize them first. Plus, there's some of the better known brands. You might not have heard of Beyond Bank. It's an Aussie online bank. Bendigo Bank's less well known, but they're still a very good lender. They had a 35 grand limit for their credit card, but we trimmed that down to 5K because they never used it. It was just there as a buffer, as an emergency fund. So we removed 30K off their limit so we could increase their borrowing capacity. But for this one, thankfully, borrowing capacity isn't going to be a problem. They can easily borrow the 1.235, whatever it's going to end up being for that property. We've used 4.5K monthly expenses. That's just a guesstimate for now. It might go up by a few $100s, but that's really not going to change the borrowing capacity that much, and it's not going to prohibit them from buying the property. So let's have a look now at what they'll need to get started in the loan for this property anyway. So we go to the funds position, $1.3 million property, 95%, leaves a $1.235 million loan. As it's a first home buyer, they're not going to pay any lender's mortgage insurance. They still are going to pay stamp duty. That's what these government charges are. So around 54K for the stamp duty as they breach that $1 million price cap. So the 54K plus the 65,000 odd 5% deposit will leave around 119K they'll need to get started to buy this property in Riverwood. Now they have over 200 and I think it's 25K in savings. So they've got plenty of money to do this. They could even take out a lower loan amount, but they're looking to buy investment properties over the next 12 to 24 months. So they don't want to do that at this stage. They want to keep as much money to one side as possible. Marnie is expected to start earning a lot more money within the next 12 months, and their borrowing capacity will go up a little bit more. Plus, there's talk about some bonuses for Adam as well. So we can use all of that. So they're going to need around the 119,000 mark to get started. Let's have a look at some of the products. So Bendigo Bank is not by far, but it is the cheapest for their situation. So they'll get a rate of around 5.38 if they went with Bendigo. Monthly repayments of around 6,900. they're not actually going to take Bendigo, the cheaper lender. They're already banking at Commonwealth Bank. So the rate is not too dissimilar. It is a bit higher. It is a bit higher. It's 20 basis points higher, but they're already banking there. They love the bank and they don't want to move. So we've got to take these things into consideration too. It's not all about the cheaper rate with some customers like Adam and Marnie. They're thinking long term. They want to get into investment properties. CommBank's a great one for trust lending as well. So it's a good base to be started with. They don't need to change lenders. They've done all their banking there and they just simply don't want to move, which is fine. NAB is also really great for first home buyers under this scheme. Beyond Bank, you might not have heard of them. They're an online Aussie bank. Aussie call centre. They're pretty good. They're a lot slower than CommBank and Bendigo and NAB, but their rates are pretty good and they're actually a decent lender. But for this purpose, we're going to go with Commonwealth Bank. We already know the loan amounts. So their monthly repayments are going to be around the $7,000 mark. If we change that to weekly, we can see that it's going to be around the $1,600 mark. They're not quite paying $1,600 a week in Renwick, but at least they're going to own their own home with this one.